Goffstown Planning Board. This is our regular scheduled meeting for the first meeting in June. We begin with introductions, and we'll start with Joanne.
Joanne Duffy, Planning and Economic Development Director.
Mark Lemay, Select Board Rep.
Philip Devanza.
Scott Ozana, Town Engineer.
Tim Redmond.
Tim Searles.
Barbara Griffin.
Richard Freeman.
Dave Pierce.
So I forgot to do the Pledge of Allegiance first, so we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance now. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, before we begin the meeting, we have some things to take care of. Is minutes from May 8th, 2025.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Barb, will you read them? I heard your voice first. Any discussion of the motion to approve as presented? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention?
I abstain. I wasn't here.
One abstention. Richard Freeman. We also have minutes from 5/22 of 25.
Motion to approve.
I wasn't there either, but you can still second.
Who did, you, Barbara, or Tim?
Yeah.
Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Abstain.
Abstain.
abstention?
Abstain.
3 abstentions.
It's been pretty lonely.
Okay. I hear phones beeping, so I requested everyone silence their phone right now. Mine too. I forgot to do mine. We have another item on our correspondence. There's a request to accept surety for unfinished work at Dearborn Village condominium development. I'm curious about this because they barely even got started. So let's have Scott report on this, please. The public tracking form from the town public works.
Sure. So, Christine Lamontagne reached out to myself and Joanne a few months back, actually, to get the ball rolling on this, and she indicated that the type of, I believe, the loan that they have is for some phases. So they'd like to open the project in phases. So I think you've probably all seen the progress so far. I believe the bank of buildings on the left as you're entering is what they're looking to start selling first. And so they'd like to bond with a letter of credit the work that is to be remaining on site. So they're going to put down binder and everything else that they can. They'd like the majority of the site to be complete, but obviously landscaping and wearing course, some fencing, striping, and stuff like that is what they're looking to bond or have a surety for.
Question.
Phil?
When you said binder, are you talking financially, or you talking about the road binder?
The base course of asphalt.
Okay.
I'm curious about the words you said that were phasing, because we never discussed phasing with the applicant. No, you may not.
It's not, it has nothing to do with phasing for the construction. It's just the people who are providing the finances for this project. They're doing it, there's different people involved and they're doing it in different sections, so.
Was this ever discussed prior to
No,
our
because
time?
the board never gets into how
Okay.
someone's financing their project. So what they'd like to do is that they had everything approved by the Attorney General's office for the condominium. And this is one of the requirements that they needed to do, because before they can sell anything, according to our regulations, everything has to be completed or surety proposed. So that's what they're doing. Instead of completing the actual site work, whatever's not finished, they want to be able to start selling the units. Not necessarily anyone's moving in, just selling them.
Do you have any recommendation from the planning office?
Yes, I spoke with Christine at length on this, and I feel comfortable with accepting this.
So you say
surety.
selling units, but people are not moving in. Is that what's going to actually happen?
Yeah, they can't move in until all of this is actually finished.
Okay. And Scott, you reviewed the dollar amounts?
Yeah, everything looked to be prototypical in terms of costs.
Okay, and we did this on a project prior with this applicant, the second half of the project across from the Villa Augustina, and then that was successful, that all worked out
Yep,
according to plan?
yep.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Barbara?
I just, frankly, I was surprised that the amount was so low, so I'm happy to hear DPW seems to think that it's okay. But I didn't quite understand the number as it was presented on the first page of the letter of credit, because there's additional decimal point and 2 zeros, which made me wonder exactly how much it was.
Typo, obviously.
Can I?
Yes.
Because it's stated, it's stated in words ahead of it.
We'll have that corrected before we get the signed copy.
Okay.
Bill, did you have a question?
When you were talking about, I guess you mentioned phase, or are we talking a certain amount of units, or are we talking?
I don't know exactly how many they plan to sell first.
No.
I don't have that number.
I don't think it's germane, Phil, because if they can sell them, but if the agreement is they can't move in, I don't care if people buy them ahead of time, do you?
No, I just didn't want there to be, as we go forward, as this goes forward, I didn't want it to be any misunderstanding of what it actually meant. That's why I was
Joanne?
asking.
Are we clear with Phil's question, Joanne? Were you listening to Phil's
I
question?
was only half listening, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Phil wants to make sure that it's, as stated, this is for pre-sale only and not for people to move in, and we're not gonna hear something else down the road that we want people to move in and,
We're not getting any requests for COs for this building before this is complete.
No,
well,
no.
what happens if one building has got a CO, Joanne? Does that mean that building can be occupied prior to all the work being done?
No, typically, the work has to be done before the CO is.
Including all the site work?
Including the site work.
Okay,
So was Bog Road phased?
Bog Road is a phased
that was
project.
phased and
Yeah,
prior.
just wanted
I
to
think
clarify it.
We
from
approved
planning
that.
it was phased.
We approved that as 2 phases, as I remember.
Their phase 1 is completed
Right,
and they're still
and that's why
working on
there
it.
are people still living there and there's still construction that's different from this.
Because the site work on phase 1 is all finished.
They actually basically completed the site. There's just a handful of things left. There were some dead trees there.
All right, I don't want to
Yeah, let's not
digress,
get
but it
into
was
that.
different. That was
Right.
approved as a phase, so there
All
were
right,
people
so,
living in it before.
does anybody have a problem with this request to bring a vote forward?
No.
Okay, do we need a vote on this, Joanne?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, someone has to make a motion?
Motion to approve the requested irrevocable letter of credit, surety amount 201,033 and 80 cents.
Second.
Motion to approve the request to post a bond for a 201,
Surety.
surety, amount of surety, 201,033.80. Anybody have any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. We will talk about the appeal application at the end of the meeting. We'll put that aside for now. It was in your packet. And we will move on to the first application tonight, which was continued, map 15, lot 152. Joanne, could you run it quickly for us, please?
Yep. So you're looking at a project on 700 Mass Road in the commercial zone. The applicant is Aroma Joe's, and they would like to do some renovations to the existing building that's there and use the existing drive-through for the coffee service. They were here at a recent meeting, and they've done they've made changes to the plan based on the board's comments and staff's comments, and they're back tonight looking for approval.
Any questions for staff before I forgot to appoint David as a voting member tonight because Colleen is not here, so David will be voting on all matters.
Yes.
There's also a conditional use permit that, for the use of the drive-through that you would need to vote on as well.
Have we accepted this?
Yes.
Yes.
I thought so.
My
But,
question,
I'm sorry, just one other thing. But you accepted it, but you haven't voted on the waivers yet, the 2 waivers.
And the conditional use.
Yes.
Right, okay.
my question is under staff comments on page 6, where fire department is.
Yes.
Is it appropriate to ask a question on the comment from the fire department now or later?
So we have an update from the fire department.
The letter was on the table, Phil.
They have no.
No, I understand that
Okay.
letter, but
Question.
underneath there, number 2, on the fire department, building will need a Knox box if not already installed.
Right. In order for them to get inside.
But why, what other application that we've approved has required a Knox box in the past, outside of municipal buildings?
I don't ever remember one, Phil.
I know
We have-
we require them on gates and things, I know that, but I don't recall the fire
Do you have
department
any
requesting
discussion?
buildings.
We have a new captain in the position of fire protection, so it may be something that he asks for. I mean, I can check on it, but I put it in as a condition of approval. If it's not needed, we can just cross it off.
We need to know if it's founded in law or if this is a request from the fire department, straight up request. That's what makes the difference as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
You
Okay.
can find that out for
I'll
us?
find out.
All right. Anything else from board members before we begin this application again? Nobody wants to say anything? Okay, floor is yours, fellas.
Good evening to the board.
Do you want this?
I have a record on Jeff Merritt. I'm an engineer with Granite Engineering. We're the civil site engineers for the project. With me, Rob Hanson. Rob is the owner of this property here, also the owner of a number of other Aroma Joes in New Hampshire. And then in the audience is Scott Thornton. Scott is the traffic consultant for the project. There were a lot of traffic discussions last meeting, so just went ahead and brought the traffic consultant to the meeting. So let me, I think I'd like to pick up kind of where we left off last meeting, kind of talk about some of the comments that the board had and show you some of the changes that we've made to the plan to see if it addresses your concerns. A lot of our discussion at the May meeting was really relative to the queue length of the drive-through. And, you know, I had talked about the traffic study that we had done and the anticipated queue versus what we were proposing. And then we had a lot of discussion about how, you know, this certainly isn't a Dunkin's or a Starbucks. It's a little bit different type of a coffee shop, so it doesn't have the queues associated with those. The board still had some concern about, you know, what happens if the queues are a little bit longer than anticipated, that kind of thing. We had talked about several options, including coming into the west driveway instead of the east driveway. We had talked with Mr. Hanson about that offline. He had some significant concerns about that orientation, as it was a little less intuitive. It kind of shoots you right into where the reader board is and the menu board is, but you'd have to flow around the building to get in. So he thought it may be hard to police people cutting into the board there. So what we did is we did a proposed second drive-through lane, and this is something that Mr. Hanson has at one of his other stores. Again, we don't necessarily think it's necessary out here, otherwise we would have proposed it to begin with, but we want to show the board a way that it could be done so that we can increase the queuing if it was needed, so that it wasn't backing out onto the street. And so this would have 2 drive-throughs, and then there's a merge as they kind of hit where the reader board is. And the way it works, and Rob, you probably explain this better than I can, but there's an employee that takes the orders at the merge. It's done with an iPad, and then there's alternating cars that that go to the pickup window. And again, it's not something that would necessarily need to be open all the time. It would be open if and when there's certain days or certain hours that it could be useful. And you have it at a different store?
Yeah, we're using it at the one on South Beach and Hooksett Road, Hooksett store as well. And basically, somebody is out there, with a tablet, taking orders that get relayed into the store, and then the cars merge. And we've got it set up so that we walk down the middle of the lane and hit one car on one side, car on the next side, and then tell the cars to follow each other. And it's worked out very well. And we've been doing that about 5, 6, 7 weeks, something along those lines. And it's worked out very well so far in those 2 locations.
So what happens in winter?
In winter, unfortunately, we're not as busy in the winter as we are in the summer, in the spring. But I think, we could end up doing the same thing unless it's really, bad weather. We could be outside with the staff as well. So, yeah.
I think that's more dangerous to have somebody running around outside with an iPad and have some cues.
Is this something you want, or is this something you're doing to try to appease the board's concerns?
I think it's a little bit of both, to be honest with you. If the lines get long, customers don't like sitting in the line, and that's why we're instituting it in the other 2 stores, in the South Beach store and the Hooksett store, to keep those lines moving. And I think, last meeting that we had, there was some concern about the traffic flow and, the amount of cars there. And this is one thing that we found has worked there, and it's one thing that Aroma Joe's does approve as well, as they're using it throughout the brand to move the cars. Again, very similar to Chick-fil-A, like we talked about last time, keeping these cars moving. The kids are, in a line. I'm not going to say that nothing would ever happen to them, because you don't know what people do, but the cars are traveling about 3 miles an hour when they're in that line, and when they get up to somebody holding a tablet.
I saw it on South Beach, South Beach Street.
Yeah.
And I was kind of surprised at first to see someone out there, but it worked fine.
It
So-
does,
It didn't the first couple of weeks. It took us a little while to get used to it, and we were trying different things to figure out how it worked best. I think we got a pretty good system now. Yeah.
so Jeff, at the last meeting, we talked about, because you're gonna have a walk-up window there, I think people are gonna be lazy and they're not gonna go park in the back with a striped parking area. They're gonna wanna parallel park against your front island. They're also gonna wanna parallel park against the side where the 12.1 foot lane is. It's gonna create a pinch point there.
I mean, someone not parking in a defined space
They
could
do it
do
all
that
the time.
anywhere, I think it would definitely be on management to make sure people aren't doing that on a regular basis. The parking is out back. The walk-up window, I don't know what the percentage of business is to the walk-up window, but it's fractional.
Yeah, minimal. So, I would say it's probably less than 3% during our peak times. There, summer, being that it's very few people. I'm just thinking of the Hooksett location. My guess is about 10, 12, 15 customers at the most use the walk-up. People would rather sit in their car and wait in line and be on their phone,
Okay.
texting these days or whatever they're doing on their phones than getting out of the car.
And Rob, can you order ahead and pick up at the drive-thru?
You can, yep.
So that other lane would be for incidental use or in service all the time when your business is open?
It's incidental use.
So it would be, you still would have a wider area to pass by the original proposed drive-up lane.
Yeah, we would
Correct, yep.
stripe, yeah, right, we would stripe the lane there so it could be opened up whenever there's a peak season, if there was, but it would be closed if it wasn't needed.
Okay.
And then what it does add, and there's an illustration on the very last page of the plans that it shows kind of the max queue roughly of what you could fit there, and it adds another 6 spaces, so like you're talking 15 cars that would be waiting, which is, I mean, maybe someone would do it, but you'd be, even with a few minutes in order, you're camping out there, you're really dedicated to that coffee. So we have that on the plan. We also added a note 20, to kind of memorialize how it would work. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was relative to that west driveway. So if you remember, we talked about cars coming in there, you could dart right into the drive-through lane, and that if people decided that that was easier, then they think that was the drive-through lane, and that could back out because it doesn't have a long length. So what we did is we signed that entrance service vehicles only. We think it should curb the potential for people to come in that way. In the off chance that people aren't getting the message and it has to be clarified a bit further, we would offer to put pylons or movable pylons along the outside edge of the drive-through lane to force them around the building if they were to come in that. And that's something, again, that would be on the management side. We did add that to the plan as a note so that, you know, the board could feel comfortable that any approval comes with the stipulation that it has to be maintained such that we aren't using that entrance for the drive-through. So if you look at note 21 on the plan, that's been added as well. And we can talk further about the drive-through, but the last kind of, I guess, major topic that we talked about last meeting, and really Colleen, she's not here tonight, but she had more questions about the parking. And remember, this doesn't have a internal seats or anything like that, and max employees at shift is 3. So it's not a high employee count in the building. So, you know, in terms of what Aroma Joe's need, there's really not much in terms of parking that's needed. We have 8 spaces, there's 3 staff. You know, Rob has other stores that we were able to count spaces at. And so we provided a little table in the response letter that compares 3 other stores that he has, the size of those stores relative to the employees and the parking spaces. And you'll see those stores all have as little as 5 spaces, as a maximum of 7 spaces. And you know, I'll leave it to Rob, but I think we would attest that there's no parking issue on those spaces.
Yeah, there's no parking issues, and I chose the stores that I think are going to, that Goffstown will perform similar to, so we can kind of compare apples to apples here. And again, there's, you know, 8 spots in this one here, and 5, 6, and 7 in the other 3 that I compared it to there. So.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing we wanted to mention too, and we talked about it after the meeting, I guess we didn't quite think of it on the spot, but you know, the DoorDash programs are pretty popular these days. And so what Rob reminded us after the meeting is that doesn't mean that someone has to park, get out, and go in. What they do is the DoorDash can be instructed to come through the drive-through lane to pick up. And so like there's really not a lot of reason to get out of there, is what it comes down to. So anyways, there's a table there. All the Aroma Joes are roughly 800 to 850 square feet. Our building is bigger, but that's just because the building exists. If this site was, you know, didn't have a building on it and we were building a fresh site, we'd be after an 800 or 850 square foot building because that's their prototype. So we think we have enough parking there. So those were really the 3 major topics of discussion. Certainly happy to go into any other aspects of the site that the board has or further discussions on those elements.
Does the board have any questions for the applicant at this time, Robert?
So I was a little confused about hearing about the person outside taking the orders on the iPad or whatever it is you use. And I understand the 2-lane thing, which I'm not too much of a fan of, but I get that you can accommodate a lot more cars and you don't need the space for parking. Because on your site plan, you have menu boards in both lanes. And then if I look at your building pictures, at least I think I'm seeing one.
No.
It says proposed menu board
For lane 2.
for lane 2, and then if I look down, so there's only one. All right,
No, yeah, so that says proposed drive-through lane 2.
okay.
Yeah.
So the menu board is still there for I'll call it the inside lane.
The lane that's most likely to be used the most of the time.
And so when are you going to know to send somebody out for orders? I guess I'm a little confused as to, you know, most places when they have 2 lanes, there are 2 menu boards when you get up there and then they merge. They don't they're not separate. So that, I'm a little confused about, you know, somebody orders at the menu, sitting at the menu board, and I can actually see people, if the second outside lane is open, driving by thinking they're gonna get in front of them in the queue, and then there's no menu board. So how does that work?
Yeah, I can tell you what I'm planning and what I've done in
Okay.
the other stores, whoops. You know, there, and so basically, when we started doing this, again, 7, 8 weeks ago, whatever it was, I was on site myself, working with the staff and working with the cars and people, and kind of getting them used to what we were doing. After, you know, 2 weeks, you know, and it wasn't every day, we just went out on the busy days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, there when we needed that. And we only have people go out there on the busy times.
Okay.
Otherwise, you know, that's just that one lane, you know, in there. And then once we got people used to, you know, the way that the flow would go, it was actually really pretty easy. They just naturally slide back and forth and go inside there. We would also tell them, you know, stay behind the white Accord, stay behind, you know, the black Acura, you know, there, you're next, you know. So we just try to
No, I guess, I understand how you get that. I guess I'm in there placing my order at the menu board in lane 1.
I think that's,
There's,
is that
at the menu board, though, you don't place an order, because we don't have an intercom.
Oh, that's right, you
Go right
you
up to
order
the
at the
order
window.
There's a win-
I mean, I've been there, I know
There's a
that.
win- there's a
I'm
window
sorry, I'm
somewhere.
locked
okay.
into ordering at the
That's okay.
menu. Okay, all right, sorry. Withdrawn.
We're all about
Withdrawn.
live people, real people.
Okay, move on. Anybody else have questions?
What's the plan for closing it? Just like a sandwich board sign type of thing in the second lane? I'm just curious.
Closing that lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now in the other stores, we don't do anything.
We don't technically close it, it's just once it starts queuing up, it naturally
Yeah,
begins to fill.
Yeah, so inside, we will have monitors with cameras on the outside, so we can, you know, so everybody can see when that line starts to get long, and then we'll send somebody out to do that. If that line isn't long, the customers know to stay in that one
Yeah.
lane going around,
Okay.
and they do, so.
All right, does anybody have any other questions? We can discuss waivers, we won't act on them until after the public hearing has been had. Joanne, could you tell us about the first development regulation waiver that's requested?
Yes. So the first one is for a drainage study and site-specific soil mapping. This
Okay.
is an existing site. They're actually reducing some of the pavement, so it's really not necessary. And DPW did comment that they have no issues with either of the waivers. There are very few changes being made, and therefore the stormwater report and site soil mapping are not necessary. The second waiver is for the soil mapping in preparation of the stormwater management design.
Is that requiring any stormwater management? Right, it's not-
No, I mean, it's an existing site, like Joanne said, they're actually reducing pavement, so technically it's going in a better direction anyway.
And Joanne, could you explain to everybody what the conditional use permit request is for?
Yes, it's, the conditional use permit request is for the drive-through itself. In this zone, it requires a conditional use permit for a drive-through, and that's typically for restaurants that have drive-throughs. And this
Anybody have
is,
any questions regarding the conditional use permit or the waivers?
this is located in the commercial zone.
Okay, so, if there's no other questions for the applicants from board members, I will open our public hearing. Everybody at the table set for now? All right, at this time, I'm going to open the public hearing. If anybody is here to speak about this application, now is the time to step up and be heard. Nobody is here, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Let's deal with the waivers, start. DPW's made given us their opinion on both the waivers, so does anybody want to discuss the waivers?
I don't have any issue with them.
So one at a time, we'll do the waiver motions.
I'd like to, but I didn't bring my zoning book, so I don't have the fancy language.
Well, page 4 has the 6L drainage study. Would be good enough to
I was
read.
thinking you just pulled that off the top of your head every time.
from the development regulations, Barbara.
I sneak of you, what?
It's waivers from the development regulations.
No, I
section.
can see it, all right. I guess I'm thinking of the conditional use, and I know I can just reference what's
Oh.
in the report for the conditional use, so there you go. All right, I'll make a motion to grant the waiver request for development reg 6L relating to drainage study, site-specific soils map.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And keep going, you're doing very well.
I'll make a motion to approve the waiver requested as to development reg 6.1 and appendix C, soils mapping and preparation of storm water management design.
Second.
Is that you, Tim? Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Do we have to get answers from the applicants on the conditional permit questions, Joanne?
Yes, we had them at one time. I don't have them.
They're in here.
Yeah, there is.
They're actually in the
Oh, they're in
report on
page
page
four.
4
Yeah,
at
4 and 5.
Okay.
embedded in the.
So I'm going to ask you to respond to the question, to the statements. 15.4.141, use is specifically authorized in the ordinance as a conditional use.
Yep, according to the zoning ordinance, table 311, table of principal uses, a drive-through service is allowed as a conditional use permit in the commercial district.
15.4.142 will comply with all requirements of the section.
Yep, the development complies with all the requirements of the Goffstown zoning ordinance. Waivers have been requested in the application for 2 sections of Goffstown development regulations, the site-specific soil mapping and the stormwater management group.
15.4.143, compatible with the neighborhood.
We think the use is compatible with the neighborhood as it's in a commercial neighborhood. There are a variety of commercial and industrial uses along Mass Road, including gas stations, flower shops, dance studios, school, and various other retail and restaurant establishments.
The use will not have a substantial adverse impact on vehicular or pedestrian safety.
We do not think it's going to have a substantial adverse impact on vehicular or pedestrian safety. We've provided striping and signage as necessary. We have also provided a sidewalk and a crosswalk for pedestrians. We have also prepared a traffic impact study that's been included. We've discussed expected traffic volumes for the change of use. We've done a safety analysis and a drive-through facility queuing analysis.
15.4.145, the use will not have a substantial adverse impact on the appearance and visual quality of the surrounding neighborhood.
Right now, that building is vacant. The appearance of the building and site will actually be improved with the addition of signage for the property, new lighting, new striping, and the parking lot and proposed landscape improvements. So we think it'll actually be a betterment to the appearance.
15.14146, adequately serviced by necessary public utilities and community facilities.
Since the site's already developed, we have existing gas, electric, water, and sewer. We are not proposing any changes to the utility services, and there's actually public transportation services provided by Manchester Transit Authority in the area.
So I would ask for a motion regarding the answers put forth for the record by the applicant regarding the conditional use permit for the drive-through.
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit requested by the applicant. It meets the requirements of our ordinance and regulations for the reasons stated by the applicant in the staff report.
Second.
Motion by Barbara, second by Phil. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. What's left to discuss, Joanne? Nobody seems to have any problems with the revised plan. Nobody stated any issues with it.
No, we just have the conditions of approval. And I can change number 10 installation of Knox box shall be required to installation of Knox box, comma, if required.
What number was it?
Number 10.
Number 10? You're adding that to...
If required by adopted regulation, right? I mean, the part of, if people can just say things are required, we need it.
By the
Either by the code.
NFPA.
It's got to be
By-
code driven.
I'll just say fire codes.
Okay. I have a question.
We can get rid of 7 and 8 today. We don't need site inspection. By DPW, there's no
And there's no drainage.
infrastructure, the drainage maintenance agreement can, there's no drainage infrastructure for them to maintain, so.
Will you be out there to make any inspections at all
There'll
regarding?
be a driveway, did we ask her that? Well, it's required, driveway modification permit, which I don't see as one of my comments. Oh, you know why it's not on there? You put it on your plan.
I think I put it on as a.
Yeah. I had a bunch of comments that he just put in his notes, so I took them off of being comments.
5 and 6 can be combined, I believe.
Yes.
And then I guess I have a question as to 11. We either have a driveway plan we like or we don't.
That one's been addressed.
Okay, so that needs to come out.
So 11's coming out?
11 should come out.
That's,
And aren't the signage or whatever on the plans, do we need 12 and 13?
those aren't my comments, where'd those come from?
Those were from the traffic engineer.
So I have a concern when something that's as a, if it's gonna be a condition that it said should. It's either a condition or it's not a condition, and should is nothing.
Yeah, number 12, I mean, there's already stop signs shown, I don't think 12 should be a condition, I don't think,
And 13, they resolved with the service entrance issue.
yeah.
So 12 and 13 can come out. This is pretty special, we don't remove this many conditions.
Keep going, keep going.
We're on a roll.
Joanne, what I don't see is a digital file or something that shows that the site was developed in accordance with the plan that was presented to the planning board.
You mean an as-built?
Yeah, because they're doing striping, they're doing a lot of changes, and I think a new plan should be on file showing the changes to go with the property.
I think that was a Scott comment, and that's note 16 on our plan.
Oh, yeah.
It's on
They
your-
included it on their plan, on their site plan.
Well, generally, it's in the conditions of approval, Joanne, even though it's on their site.
You want me
So-
to add it? or-
So,
Well-
the reason I had them take it off is because typically we require the conditions of approval to be on the plan. So,
Since they were already on it.
since it's on the plan, it would just be on there twice, which is kind of why I didn't keep it on as a comment.
Okay.
Because he took it upon himself.
As long as it
already
happens.
put them on the plan.
As long as it happens.
Okay.
Not many people do that.
No, sometimes it's like pulling teeth to get people to do that, to even put the conditions on there.
We got you.
Phil?
On 14 and 15, the word should in there, I think it should be replaced with
Those two
to.
comments don't need to be there either. Those are also from the traffic.
What,
We
14
might
and
be
15
setting
can
a
be
record.
struck, you mean?
I think so. All signs and landscaping within an intersection, site triangles, areas, and site driveways should be designed and maintained so as not to restrict line of sight. I mean, that's,
That's the traffic report, it was already, it's done in the design, right?
yeah,
So it's
no
done.
windows.
So we
14
get
is-
rid of 14, Scott, what
I
about
think
15?
15 too. I mean, that's just standard practice to not pile your snow up so high that you can't see.
Well, I like the fact that that they say they're gonna promptly remove it, because I don't see that anywhere else. Because they show snow storage,
Okay, we can
but
keep
they
that
don't
then.
show removing it becomes problematic. So I think we should.
Phil, change your word.
My concern is to change should to the word to be promptly removed instead of should be
It
removed.
should
So
say
they
shall
have a
be.
note on their plan that says snow shall be stored in the designated areas shown on the plan. If snow volumes exceed the available storage on site, it shall be hauled off the site and disposed of.
So I guess we don't need
So you
15
don't
either.
need 15 either.
Okay, so 14 and 15 are gone?
So we scrapped, 5 and 6 have been combined into 1. 7 and 8 have been scratched. 10 has been modified to state that the installation of a Knox box shall be required if required by code. And then 14 and 15 are stricken. Everyone agree with that?
And 12 and 13.
12 and 13.
12 and 13 are also stricken?
Can we get a special copy of this?
And
approval
11,
minutes?
too.
And 11?
11, 12, no, yeah, 11, 12, and 13 are removed.
Good news.
So everything beyond 11 is gone?
11 to the end.
Okay. Anybody have anything else?
I make a motion to approve this plan with the very minimal conditions that we have just discussed.
Yeah, I'll second that too. That's,
I just want to know where all the people at the farmer's market are going to park.
Oh, I mentioned that to them land. It looked like a used car lot when I.
There were a lot of cars there this
Today
afternoon.
was their.
You're all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay, there's been a motion made to approve the plan with the conditions noted by Barbara, seconded by Phil. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Good luck, gentlemen.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'll be there.
See you in line.
Too.
Yeah, watch out for that queue line,
Is Earl Sanford here yet?
Yes.
He is, good. So you're second, so we didn't want to skip on you.
Physically, I'm here. I don't know about the rest.
I kept watching this phone thinking, why hasn't he called?
You want time for a little nap, Earl?
Yes, please.
Fresh off his sailboat.
22-hour sail. Made to the Cape and then
Don't brag, just do your thing. Joanne, this is coming back from another meeting. Could you give us a rundown, please?
Yes. All right, so for those who haven't heard it before, this is located on Daniel Plummer Road. They're proposing a tree service company they're going to have a 4,320 square foot equipment shed and a 6,500 square foot timber storage area. They'll have 22 parking spaces, and the site will contain an area for stormwater drainage. They were here, I think it was 2 meetings ago. They have 2 waivers. They had 1 waiver the last time, now they've added another one. So they have 2 waivers. One is for stormwater management, drainage, and then another section is no surcharge of that same waiver. And then another waiver is for the landscaping and screening.
Is that the driveway issue?
There was another waiver request for the 10.
That's the
driveway
10-foot driveway setback that we were supposed to have
They s-
another waiver.
They submitted 2 different.
Oh, I'm
PDFs.
sorry, I do have that one too.
Okay,
Okay,
I
so
was gonna
there's
say,
3.
they had,
Yeah, I got it. So Scott has updated his comments. The Conservation Commission did review the plan since your last meeting, and they voted unanimously that they had no environmental issues of concern. So I've listed conditions of approval, but you'll want to go through everything as well as the 3 waivers.
Board members have questions for staff?
Where do we find that third waiver? I see 2 on all of this.
Did we get a copy of it?
I think it's in the packet. It,
It's right here, with a
looks
clip
like
on it in
this.
your packet.
Yeah, I have that one on the second page, there's only 2 waivers.
Okay.
I think it came, you didn't get it in the packet
you
that
got
was
them
mailed.
late, so they might
Yeah.
have been, they're right at the end of it.
Well, I
Or
think,
it
That's
might
why,
be-
like, my first comment says you need a waiver for this.
The
and then
3
they
waivers are
supplied one,
act-
And I forgot to pull my comments.
the 3 waivers are here. The first page of the application for waiver checklist, number 1 is no driveway within 10 feet of the sidewalk. The second page has stormwater management and landscaping on the second page, so they are all there, they're just on 2 different pages. All right, we will deal with waivers after we talk about applicant for a little bit. What were the outstanding issues, Joanne? Do you remember, or are we going to let Earl tell us what they were?
They were mainly what Scott was reviewing, so you
Okay.
want to ask him.
So it was a couple drainage things. They addressed most of it. The big thing was before they started the yard, the landscaping, like yard area, the land was mostly forested and some field. And then prior to coming to the planning board, they had done some clearing and created some gravel areas. And the biggest issue I had with that is when they did the original stormwater study, they looked at it as the gravel area that they had already created has always been there, and I wanted them to review it as back to when it was woods, just so that pre and post was created. So Earl has done that with this new iteration. That was the biggest thing on the previous one. Now they're requesting a waiver for some surcharging pipes. I just asked Earl when he comes tonight to explain why he's requesting that, to try and better explain it to us, to see if the board would like to approve those waivers. And then I think the other thing that the board wanted a little more information on was the existing landscaping that was there, because I think that's the reason your request, the justification for the waiver request. So that's what I recall. So.
There is no, I hesitate to say there's any landscaping there now. There's existing tree lines.
Yes,
but there's no landscaping.
I
Those are two different words.
I just going over what we discussed last time and what I recall.
I got you.
So.
Okay, anything else from board members for DPW before we move on?
And then I only requested, I think I asked for this last time, but I didn't see it on the detail, is oil and gas hoods in the catch basins. Just so the hydraulic fluid or...
That was an oversight on mine. I'd asked for, if we do get it approved, that would be a condition.
Yeah.
And I remember asking for information regarding DES for fuel storage on site.
Right, and you had the
Just to
tanks,
remind you that was
Yeah.
part of it. Okay. So I think I'm going to turn the floor over to you folks and let you go.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Earl Sanford of Sanford Surveying and Engineering, here with Mike Giuliano, the owner of the property. And yeah, I think the main issues were making sure our pre-development conditions were pre any gravel placement, as Scott has said. So we redid it. It did require some additional infiltration trench that would go in front of his wood pile right along here. So we've designed that in there to
Is that on the plan that's in front of us, Earl?
yes, and it should be on the plans that we last submitted,
No,
or did it not? Or did it not make it?
No, it didn't make the plan because it was like a last minute ditch effort to get
Okay.
us anything. So it's in his stormwater report, and I reviewed the report. It just hasn't made it to the plan, so.
It's on our plans that we have, but I.
Could you show us,
apologize.
board members, where this additional trench is going to be?
It's shown on here, from here to here, infiltration trench that's also matching. This infiltration trench that's already there is intercepting all the water coming down off the hill. This one will intercept everything that's coming off the gravel area. And then as it goes out of there, it will still go through over 75 feet of unaltered land as a treatment to meet the AOT buffer, what would you call it, BMP, best management procedure. So that's been added to this. Other than that, we've got about 230 feet of piping. Originally, we tried to do it with just letting it sheet off, but we had a little trouble grading to really control it. But it's still generally is sheeting off I guess originally I wanted to just use area drains with minimal piping to just help sort of be a belt and suspenders with the sheet drainage instead of taking all the water. So I started with 8-inch pipe, then I came up to 12-inch. It's surcharging the mouth of the pipe in the two catch, or when it goes into the structures, not because the pipe isn't big enough in terms of its fullness. It surcharges because of the entrance restrictions, and then it immediately goes down, or not immediately, but it just flows down to half pipe width in a 50-year storm. So I feel like the 12-inch would be adequate, especially considering, to me, there's two definitions of surcharge. One is surcharging the pipe, and the other would be surcharging the structure. And we're
Would
not
you
even
explain to the people on the board that don't know what surcharging means? Tell them what that-
Surcharging means the water's going to build up higher than the top of the pipe. As it trying to get through that pipe, you have a factor that says even though this pipe can handle, 20 or whatever, a large flow, the pipe can handle it, but as the water comes down, there's turbulence, so you have to take a restrictive factor for it to get into the pipe, and that's the restrictive. The pipe itself, if it was modeled as it's channeling flow through it, it would only be half full in a 50-year storm. But as it comes through the catch basin, there's turbulence, so they're saying it's going to build up, in this case, a few inches above the top, but nowhere near the top of the structure, which would be my, there's two criteria. One is surcharging a structure, which I absolutely wouldn't want to do, where it would fill up the whole structure and then show itself on the ground. In this case, it's just coming up above the top of the pipe, a couple inches. In one case, it is more, 0.7, I think it was.
Yeah, but I think that's your outlet control structure, so I know you had said it's surcharging, but I don't technically understand how that's the case, but we don't need to get into that here.
So, in the bottom line is it's not a killer. If we have to pump it from 12-inch to 15-inch to make sure it stays totally in the pipe down below, it's not a project killer.
Two-tenths is his max that it surcharges.
Right, so you've got a 12-inch pipe with a little over 2 inches that the water's going to build up and trying to get into that pipe.
And is that only in a 50-year storm, Earl?
Yes.
And what's the
Any other
What are
storm.
the frequency of 50-year storms? Anybody know that number?
It's on a percentage, it's there's a
I feel like I shouldn't be
0.5
able to
chance
spit that
of
right
happening
Make
every
them think
year.
really
or
hard right
something.
now.
So,
But-
sir, if it's surcharging at the structure and it's over the top of the pipe, on the inlet end of the pipe, right? As
Correct.
the water then begins to flow through the pipe, does it drop down within the pipe?
Definitely,
half-
to half
To
pipe.
half of the pipe flow?
Yeah.
And what happens when it gets to the next structure? Do you have to surcharging again at the next structure?
Well,
No, it's just
yeah,
the
it
last-
will.
Just the last two.
In reality, it's a little tricky.
You know, it'd be a lot
Computer takes
easier, I think it'd be easier if you changed the pipe and didn't have to explain all this.
Do you want us to draw a hydraulic?
I agree.
The
I
hydraulic.
agree.
Everybody-
My head-
The owner just waived in submission, so you're
Yeah.
changing the pipe, Earl, to 15 inch.
15-inch.
That's,
So no more
it's his
explanation.
money, so,
Yeah.
It's also, you're talking, so that's also money too.
Yeah, exactly.
well, that's true. Good point.
So,
I get paid by the word.
so Scott,
Oh, great, I'm leaving.
would you look forward to Earl's modified plan showing
Yeah.
15-inch pipe to eliminate the surcharge?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
What else do you have for us tonight, Earl?
Just reiterating what we already went over, we're obviously, as we go to the easement for the driveway, we're getting closer than 10 feet.
Yeah.
But we're also protecting the trees on the other side against the St. Anselm property. It seemed to be the consensus was that was a worthy trade-off. That, and I think that covers the issues that my feeble brain from driving up through traffic jam after traffic jam.
So Scott, did you review the additional trench drain, the infiltrating drain he's talking
I
about?
reviewed-
In front of the timber pile?
Yes, it was in the the new drainage study that I received.
And what's
So,
your opinion?
They meet pre and post with the addition of that, so, yeah, I think they needed that to cover the additional gravel that wasn't modeled in the first
And are you-
go
and you're satisfied with the solution to the surcharge way of upsizing the
I
pipe?
think
That was your only two concerns that I heard you say, or do you have more?
that was it, just, and the catch basin detail with the.
That's just a picture on
Yeah.
the paper.
Yeah, there were very few comments they
Okay.
addressed.
Board members have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah.
I guess I want to know what happened to our landscaping discussion, because I just looked at the plans and I don't even see a note about it. Is there a note somewhere?
Landscaping
Earl?
notes are on sheet 2.
Oh, they're on the left, that's why.
Oh, yeah. I
Are
know my
you right
paper.
leaning?
We're all a little tired today, I guess.
The last 2 weeks have been. Normally, we would see what the regs require for landscaping as a calculation done.
And again, the point we had is it's down in the hole, you don't see it from the road, so.
I think Barbara's talking about our past practice.
Yeah,
where-
no, right.
Where the applicant did the square footage calculations and said we would be required to plant 15 trees and 172 bushes, and we were asking for relief from that number, as opposed to, there's a lot of trees around our property, so we don't think we need to do any landscaping. So I think Barbara's asking for that at this time.
I don't know that I feel like we need to require any landscaping based on the site. Because what are we gonna do, require landscaping for people driving by on 114 in the winter? I mean, you can't see
You
it from
can't
the
see it, yeah, you
road,
can't see it, yeah.
and you're not making any changes to what you can see, and unless I hear something from an abutter, but it is a requirement, and we can't, I don't feel comfortable not having you do the calculation, even though I can't imagine that I'm not willing to waive it, but I don't really know what I'm waiving, because you haven't done the calculation.
I'd be happy to go out and do a tree count.
No,
of
we
what-
don't want the tree count for what's there, Earl. We want you to go to the regulations
Well, exactly.
and look at the square footage that
Right,
you're
do
developing.
the square footage,
And then
how
go to
many
our
trees,
charts.
and then say how many trees are already there that would count toward that calculation.
Well, and then ask for I'm almost at the point where that can be unless somebody on the board thinks there needs to be landscaping done at this site based for the work, but we didn't,
I think we could handle it administratively.
yeah, but that's.
But it needs to be part of the record.
Understood, and that's,
It sets a precedent. If we didn't ask you to do it, another applicant could come in later and say, well, Earl didn't have to do it for technical
Tower
trees.
Lane, we went on with people about
So we,
landscaping and,
The one difference there, though, is they'll have customers coming.
I mean, there could be, but,
Well, they have a retail part of that.
right. No, I mean, there was a reason we did it, but there was also an argument that the only people coming back here are gonna be for us anyways, so
Yeah.
there's no screening if it's for us.
right.
Mr. Chair, Earl,
yeah.
is statement number 19 on your plan required? What is that asking you to do?
Waivers for landscaping are yet to be determined. Is that the one?
Yet to be determined, why is it there then?
Because we needed to have this discussion.
Well, generally, it's not a note on your plan until something happens one way or the other.
So we'll replace that with, here's the tree count.
We'll replace that when you do your due diligence, and then Joanne will help you fashion a note there that fits the correct terminology, I guess, or Scott.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not fighting this, it's just.
I know.
No, I'm trying to figure out if we go forward, how to deal with it from a.
And I understand the precedents that, we want to not look like we got favors.
Well, we try not to do that. All right, any other questions from,
If anybody was gonna get a favor, it was the people before you who had no conditions, Earl.
I know, come on.
come on, Earl's been here a lot, he's an old regular here. So, anybody else have any more questions? Because I have to open a public hearing here.
What about the last waiver for no driveway within 10 feet of the
Well,
sideline.
it seems pretty obvious. We'll discuss it when we
Okay.
come up with an answer for the waiver. So I'm gonna, if someone wants to come up to the table, you guys are gonna have to vacate. So at this time, I'm gonna open the public hearing. Anybody here wish to speak on this matter? No one is here to speak on this matter.
This is my lovely wife, by the way, Jackie, and she's also the owner of the property.
Welcome.
Hi.
Good man, good man.
She's here.
You should have been silent and spoken in favor of this.
All right. So let's talk about waivers now. First waiver, development regulations, Appendix C, stormwater management, Section 5 drainage item. Do you have comments on these, Scott, for the record?
So that, the drainage item one that you were referencing is the, let me go back to the actual. That's the surcharge one that we are asking them I think we basically talked them out of it, so I don't think you need to vote on that one.
So that waiver was,
Yeah, Appendix C.
will you formally
stormwater
withdraw that
management.
waiver at this time?
Yes.
Okay, withdrawn. Okay, what's the next one? The development regulations, Appendix F, landscaping and screening standards. I think we've already discussed this. You know what to do with it.
Yes.
Bring it back to the staff for administrative decision on whether it's worded correctly and your calculations bear out.
Mhm.
And then now we have the last one, which was the Section 8C5 driveway within 10 feet of the sideline. I'll let the board walk with this a little bit. Or am I walking?
So I looked back at because we didn't have the minutes yet, which I think we have tonight. So I did watch a short portion of the video last week because the response to my comment kind of said it was hashed out at the board level, but I recalled it slightly different. So Colleen specifically said that she would, I don't want to put words in her mouth because I don't remember exactly what it was. She basically said, I think the board would look toward a waiver so that you don't impact the trees between the two properties to have the driveway slightly closer to the other parcel that they own, that they have the easement through. I did not say it as eloquently as she did last time, but that's kind of where it was left at, so.
So Earl, in conjunction with the Section 8C5 for a driveway within 10 feet of the property line, are you going to have an easement document as
It's
part of the
already
record?
signed, sealed, delivered, and recorded.
So that'll be,
And it's on the plan.
that'll be
with
part
its-
and parcel of the.
With the book and page, yeah.
Okay. Anybody got any questions on these? Otherwise, I'm going to ask for a movement on the development reg, Appendix F, landscaping and screening. That will be just, we're going to approve that as long as it's administratively approved for the final
I
plan.
have some language.
Barbara, could you please go then?
Well, I think the landscaping note is to be substituted for note 19, which will include a calculation of the landscape needed and some quantification of existing tree shrubs to be determined to the satisfaction of the town planner.
Did you get that, Joanne? Could you also put in your notion that it's to be handled administratively, Barbara?
Okay, I'll change the
Can I ask a
words.
question? I'm assuming you're asking for a plan to show trees needed or shrubs needed on a landscape design based on what you guys would require?
No.
For a property,
Basically just a note that
It's
says
not a
how
plan.
much it would be required.
It's
how much you're
defining how
being-
much we're asking a waiver for,
Yeah,
instead of
that's all
letting
I
it be
look for.
nebulous.
Okay.
Just
all
so
right.
you understand, when you do a certain size development and you disturb a site, in order to repopulate the site with trees and shrubs, based on square footage calculations, then you go to a table, and that table tells you how many trees and how many plants you have to put in. You just have to take your square footage calculations for your site, go to the table, have Earl figure out what the requirement would be, and then he's asking for a waiver from those plantings in lieu of the trees that
That
surround your site
Are
now.
existing.
Yeah, and it's on a document, it's not on another plan.
Okay, yeah, all right, I understand.
Oh, okay. But I hear replacing note 19, so I just want to
Note
make sure that's...
19, well, because the note 19 is the nebulous one that says to be determined,
Yeah, note 19 probably
maybe should just be deleted.
shouldn't even be on your plan at that point.
Well, that's, yeah, and I guess the question is, if I'm going to have to change the plan, should I just go ahead and put those numbers right on the plan?
If you want to put them on, that's your business, but as long as it's satisfied
Right.
administratively and it's
Yeah.
part of the file and part of the record,
Thank you.
I allow,
But,
I
yeah,
completely
we
understand that.
trust staff to handle it.
Yeah.
That's much appreciated flexibility.
So Barbara's made a motion,
Did we open the public hearing yet?
I
We
did, and I
We
closed
did
it.
this, okay. Yes, so
Bar-
that says to the...
Barbara made a motion regarding the landscaping and screening, she provided wordage, and to be handled administratively. Is that correct, Barbara?
Yes.
I'll second.
So the motion is to grant the waiver for the landscaping and screening, provided proper documentation is supporting the application and submitted to staff and be approved administratively at staff level.
Correct.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Now, the driveway, section 8 driveway is within 10 feet of the property line.
Make a motion, we approve that waiver.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Any other issues, Joanne, to deal with here before we wrap this one up, if we can?
No.
How about your detail about the, what do you have for information for us? You've requested fuel and gasoline storage on site as part of your site plan. What documentation do you have for us on DES that states the terms and conditions of having on-site fuels?
There was a picture of the tank that had the code, and I apologize, I meant to transfer that to the plan. It's, what is it, a double...
It's double line,
walled,
double walled,
meets
yeah,
the-
double line.
The fuel tank storage that DES requires.
Does that require a DES permit to put those on the site?
Negative.
It does not.
I believe it requires some sort of approval from the fire department.
And I believe he
Is there-
commented on it or asked for something and got it, didn't he? Or am I thinking of something
Yeah,
different?
he said he was all set with this, so.
But I mean, is there...
Somebody, I don't know who, if it was you or Bob, somebody sent over some information. and-
Yeah, we originally got the, because they were there part of the subdivision, when we originally did the subdivision, they were there, and you guys requested that information. You guys wanted to know if it passed the requirements of, I believe it was fire, and then if there was a spill or something, is there containment, which we provided as well. That was the subdivision time when we were here.
I just don't want to approve a plan that says it's okay to have these tanks on your property if we are exceeding our authority. Because this, I don't know if this is a matter for the building inspector or for the DES or somebody, because we're not planning is, there's no fuel tank storage regulations in our regulations anywhere.
It's typically the fire department.
Well,
I think it's fire department and DES.
I'm a little concerned about approving a plan that has it on there if we don't have the authority to approve a plan with it on there, unless they have documentation that backs up that they have it from the authority that grants permission for those things.
And we'd be fine with a condition of that,
Well, I think that's where I'd like to go, Earl,
Yeah.
to protect our position.
and mine and his, whatever. We want to make sure we're totally compliant with fuel handling.
So once,
So approval of the plan does not exempt the applicant from the obligation to meet all required standards and permitting for the gas tank.
I think that's fairly stated.
For gas tank and
And
storage.
it's got to be in the record, Joanne, that the onus is on the applicant to provide their own documentation regarding that. It's not our purview to
You have a fuel company deliver
Correct.
to it?
Yeah, and they also deliver to multiple other businesses in the town of Goffstown with the,
Yeah.
we purchased the tanks from the fuel company, brand new. I bought them from them. It's Atlantic Fuels. Duval's Towing uses the same company. They have the
Well,
same exact.
let's not drop names at this point, because I don't want that part of the record. Point would be is that these are private transactions between contractors and businesses, and we don't have any purview or authority to regulate this stuff, other than if it's on the plan, we just need to make sure that you documented to us that you're gonna meet all the regulations necessary,
All state and local regulations.
okay?
All right, so Joanne, on that one that I just added, 5 and 6, once again, can be combined on your listed staff recommendations, so why don't we make the thing in regards to the gas tank, the new 6, because it's essentially the same thing, planned as approval.
How big are your tanks?
I think they're 500 each. Just two 500 gallon
It
tanks.
looks like tanks exceeding 660 gallons need to be registered with New Hampshire DES.
Well, then you let them put that in the record, and
I'm-
that backs you up.
This is Google AI giving me these things. I could be wrong. I just,
For the record, I do remember this coming up at the subdivision, and you guys requested the information that you're asking right now, and we supplied it. I believe.
Which
Bob-
we can redo.
I believe
So that-
Bob did it.
Let's not
Bob's-
get too
yeah.
carried away.
Yeah,
We
let-
can-
yeah.
I mean, we're
No
all in
problem.
agreement.
No,
I'm
no
just-
issue.
We're all in agreement that you just have to protect yourself, and we have to protect ourselves, and that's all of it.
Completely understand.
Right, and the only other thing is subdivision was at a different time.
Yeah.
Regulation was subject to change.
We're on the hook to meet all compliance, and we'll take those actions to.
Scott, should we have a site, approved as-built on this staff recommendations here somewhere?
Number 5.
Yep.
Well, I thought
Number
it
12 is an
sounds-
as-built, digital file.
Yeah, 12.
inspection.
Number 12, page 13.
Yep.
Okay.
Because then they did, yeah.
Didn't you have permission for this driveway on a prior application?
The driveway is permitted already.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see it's here, close out the existing driveway permit that when it's completed. This driveway
I
was
believe-
constructed for the subdivision.
That was for that driveway, that was a big issue going
Way
down.
back when?
Way back when.
So the
Yeah.
reason we're saying close out is because I don't believe the paved apron is there yet.
Oh, okay.
Correct?
Correct, it is not.
Yeah,
Well,
so
that's why
they
it's in.
applied for the driveway permit, and it's not closed out because it's not complete. So once it's completed, Eric goes back, does the final inspection, and this happens all over town. People take out permits, never call us to come back,
No kidding.
or they just don't take out a permit.
I'll give you 7 of them if you want them sometime. All right.
There are more than that.
Drainage maintenance agreement, you've got that worked out with the applicant?
We have an approved draft, it's just not signed and recorded or anything yet. I think it's in the packet, at least it was in mine. Yeah.
Yeah, number 8. Okay, does anybody have anything else for the applicant? Okay, who's gonna say it?
I will. Can you describe surcharging again?
It's basically when the pipe is full, and it actually becomes under pressure. When the pipe is fully surcharged.
He was
it
just,
becomes
I
under
don't think he was being serious.
pressure.
I think he was trying to get Earl's sailing.
See, Earl didn't get to the point where you say the pipe's under pressure. and
Earl's a little
that's like
seasick.
the key part of the surcharging, because
Okay.
that's when bad things
The
can
water
happen.
goes around.
What are you doing, Tim?
So
Yeah.
wait, question, are we changing a 12-inch pipe to 15?
Yes, they
Yes.
agreed to that.
Okay, so, all right.
That's why they withdrew their waiver request.
Okay. I wanted to-
It's 3 pipes,
With-
right?
with-
But does that,
They might only, I think they only need
Or
2.
4,
Well,
right?
the whole system's
Well,
not
we'll see.
surcharged.
To the
I didn't
DPW,
mean to start.
It gets better.
There will be no surcharge.
Usually down the road,
the
you
pipes will
start
be
down at
changed and shown on the
outlet
plan to
side.
the DPW's satisfaction.
Correct.
okay.
With the conditions set forth, can I make a motion? I'm gonna make a motion with the conditions set forth that we go ahead to approve this
Yep.
application.
Yep. correctly stated.
Second.
Is that you, Richard?
Yep.
Motion's been made to approve the application. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can get some sleep, Earl.
He's driving back down to the Cape now.
There you go.
gonna sail back home.
Yeah, buddy.
I need crew, anyone else?
He's off the clock as of right now.
Not till we go through that door.
Hey, and there's no talking in the hallway. Go away.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
You too.
Joanne, map 31, lot 7, old business. Please bring us up to speed.
Yes, so the applicant is here this evening for a follow-up to a meeting that we had a few weeks ago. He has gone to the, in the meantime, he has gone to the Conservation Commission, and their comments were, they voted unanimously in favor of the application. They had no issues or concerns. The board did find this application complete with no regional impact. There is one waiver regarding the driveway, which was approved back in May of May 22nd.
What was approved, the waiver?
The waiver was approved. Now they
It
have
was the
a
width of the driveway at the right.
redesign of the shared driveway.
Did
That's stuck.
conservation need to look at this for any reason?
They
Reviewed it?
they did.
Okay.
They did look at it and they had no issues or concerns.
Okay, then I see a lot of no comments from everyone else.
Yes, everyone seems to be okay with it. Scott had some comments.
My comments were kind of associated with the boundary itself. They are more comment, or kind of questions than anything, because I wasn't sure what the board's authority was in this situation. So I met with two residents out there. So they had some questions about the plan, and their bounds that on the plan themselves actually show they're disturbed. I think the term is disturbed, not held. And so the three in the back appear to have moved at some point, and I visually saw that in one case, in one instance, the southwest corner, the bound is completely knocked over. So I didn't know if the board could require them to be reset where they're supposed to be, and then the northwest corner, just while we were out there talking, we spotted a piece of rebar lying in the brush, and we picked it up, and it was a survey rod, or a corner bound, because it said Todd on it, which Todd is a survey company. So at some point that got ripped out. So I didn't know, currently there's no bound shown at that corner. So that was the question that was kind of posed.
In the back of the property?
This is at the front of the property.
Front of the
North
property.
is in the front.
Yeah, so between
Just say
map
front and
30,
north and
lot
west.
71, and the subject parcel. Other than that, I did not have any comments.
Well, I would think, Scott, that if a licensed surveyor drew this plan and gave it to us, and they're willing to put their seal of approval on it, I don't think that, it just sounds like a civil matter when bounds are removed,
Okay,
and
yeah.
not a planning board
That's
matter.
why I didn't know for sure if it was something you could require, which is why I didn't.
Well, we could require that the bounds be reset, yes.
Okay,
We can do that, but regarding disputes between this neighbor and this neighbor, that's out of our depth.
But bounds can be reset.
They can be reset, and we
Yeah.
can require that they be
Pretty
reset.
close.
but,
Well, the question would be
Wait a minute, we
specifically
didn't-
on...
You're not recognized yet, sir.
Oh,
Hang on.
sorry, okay.
so that was it. Other than that, my comments were addressed. They just need to add a note that the new bound at the front between the two parcels be a granite bound, which they did on the non-recordable plan, so we need it on the recordable one, or the one that will be recorded. It shows up on like the civil plan with the driveway, but not the actual subdivision plan.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions for staff? Okay, we'll open it up for the record. Your name, sir?
Michael Malinowski with Allen and Major Associates. David provided the Scott's comments relative to the bounds along the back. At the time of our survey back in March, we had located the two middle bounds that were held as part of the back lot line. The one that's in the middle, we did note that it was disturbed, but it was not held as part of the
So what
closure.
exactly does that mean? It's not where it was originally set?
We don't know, but based on our working around, there was a pin that was located along the front with a cap, an iron rod with a cap, up along Mass Road. And when we came down, there's two other stone bounds along the east side that were found.
Okay, yeah, I see.
And then the one in the middle was found. The one on the end, we noted that it was disturbed and not held, and it was not needed to sort of make that closure around that back property. Now, if you had noted that the other two stone bounds were disturbed, that was post-survey.
So it's the one that says disturbed that I witnessed.
Okay.
Honestly, there was a ton of poison ivy out there, and these things are in a bunch of muck, so the group of us that were out there didn't venture very far.
Well, you had also mentioned too that there had been some
This one in
maintenance.
particular was brought to my attention, which is kind of why we went to this
Okay.
one.
But are the other two back there?
I mean, one of them's in the middle of the water, so we didn't
Yeah,
see
both of
that
them.
one.
Okay.
But the one on the, like I said, the southwest corner was the one that was questioned. It's a chunk of granite that's laying down with the drill hole, so they were just wondering visually where their property started, the Deos began.
Well, if we're gonna approve a subdivision on this parcel, it's gonna be the obligation of the applicant to reset all the bounds on his own corners and wherever.
Well,
his
the
one-
question would be is whether they were disturbed prior to us surveying based on disturbance of maintenance that was performed by the town out there.
We don't know who did it, and it's not we're not gonna take blame, but this is your plan. You're saying that your corner is where it is on your plan. You need to put the bounds back where they were before I'm gonna sign this plan.
Yeah, but if that bound is not part of our research that goes around there, why should we?
Because
Reset it.
you've indicated a map here that has property lines and
Well, we
corners.
can reset where we think it's going to be, but that
You need to
one
res-
in question is not.
You need to reset it by your data based
We
on
will
this
do that.
plan.
Yes, we can do that. The one that was found up here, we didn't locate a pin up there, so we don't know what that one is. We'll put a new one up there, up
Okay.
on Mass Road.
Your survey data gives you a corner, correct?
Correct.
The pin was loose, pulled out of the ground. I don't know.
Yeah, and we didn't note, so normally if we found a pin like we did on the
Yeah.
other corner,
It was
it
just
would
laying.
actually
It
have
was
a,
just laying down.
yeah.
It was.
So I don't know where that one came from, but
Like I said, it had a
we
cap
have,
on it.
we
It
have
said
math
Todd.
that closes the front property along Mass Road, and we can set another point on that.
So for the
corner.
record, you're stating that prior to the close of this project, at the planning board level, you will have all the corners properly
Correct, as
marked?
part of the subdivision, they will have to stake that line that's in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And typically, what we do is we would go and set those, and we generate a plan for the recording that says those monuments have been set.
And what's our requirement for corner monuments, Scott?
The rear can be iron rod. There's specific descriptions in the development. regs.
Correct.
And the front has to be granite.
Yeah, the granite with the
magnetic
mag
disc.
point in it.
Okay, so
Yep.
you agree to all that.
Correct. Yep.
Anybody else have any questions for the applicant before we let him begin his discussion here? All right, floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you. I believe at the last board meeting, the one waiver was requested and granted for the existing driveway width. We had subsequently withdrawn the second waiver for the encroachment of the driveway within 10 feet. We had provided a plan that Scott had reviewed at the last meeting, but wasn't made part of the packet, that showed that we can reposition that short section of driveway to get outside of that. We still meet the requirements of having a net reduction in impervious cover on the site. Post-meeting, we did submit to Joanne a driveway agreement and the easement for review. We did get those back as being approved at the town, so those just need to be executed and recorded. And I believe that is all of the outstanding comments that we have received.
The other thing they updated on the civil plan or the driveway plan is they better delineate the pavement removal between, the big loop. So
Yeah, we
they
had
did
called
show
out that, yeah. So it's more clearly shown and hatched the amount of pavement that is being removed for that circle, and that it extends more than 10 feet over the new property line, so that the pavement won't encroach.
Questions from board members? On page C101 of your plan set, it says site plan, it shows where a new house might be located on the site. Is this something that you're just showing us so you can prove that a house fits? Or is this something that you're doing?
We have a footprint, it's basically so that we could set a building there to show that it worked
That
based
it
on the
fits.
requirements, yeah.
I was curious. Because generally, we don't approve house locations on lots. We approve the subdivision, and then it's your obligation to make it fit.
Correct, but as part of
They do
the,
have to show
They have to show that
the
somewhere
size.
it'll
It
go.
depends on,
Well, sometimes we just see an 80 by 100 box in a 4K
Right,
area.
right.
We don't actually see an elevation with the floor elevations and the cellar elevations and all the rest of the details that you would see as if this is a house that they are going to start building the day
yeah,
after they get their
they
approval.
did more than they needed to. Yeah.
we wanted to make sure that we had all of our bases covered, so that if there was something that sort of
Yep.
jumped out at us when we looked at this, that we needed a bunch more grading or additional waivers, that we just try to do our due diligence, make sure that we've got all of our bases covered.
Joanne, is there any outstanding issues that they had to bring back to us other than the driveway separation for the waiver and this business with the bounds?
No.
I think it was going to Concom too was another.
And Concom reported on it here.
No, I'm just saying, I think that was one of the reasons that.
Yeah, they reviewed, discussed, and voted unanimously in favor of this application.
I think you just hadn't heard from them yet, which was one of the reasons.
Everything else has been included under the conditions of approval.
So, conditions of approval, what's the status of condition 10? Is some of this, are we in another situation where some of this has been done?
It's shown on the plan that they're going to modify the driveway to meet the 10-foot separation. On the site plan modification shows the driveway being moved to accommodate the 10-foot sideline
Well, so
separation.
my question is do we need the comment anymore?
No, that.
Probably not, if
No,
the
that,
new
I
plan's
didn't
going to show
include
it.
that in my most recent comments, so that's an old comment.
So 10 should be Xed out?
Yes.
Well, and the same thing.
11's an old comment.
Yeah,
Number 12.
yeah.
Number 12 is the same issue, because that was the other waiver.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Because
and-
I only had 3 comments in this most recent one, and they all were property bound related.
All right, and so 13 we're leaving, but has been agreed, front bounds.
Yeah, we can keep that on there because it's not on the plan that you see tonight,
Okay.
so we
all
can
right.
keep that on.
And is the pavement restoration
Yeah,
detail?
that was done.
That's actually in the street, that's not the driveway.
Yeah, so what it was is their driveway.
For the
their-
sewer
their-
cut.
Oh, it
yeah,
is?
their cut
Oh, okay, I
wasn't,
wondered what it was.
We
it
don't-
wasn't the,
We don't
3
set
inches.
standards for driveway depth, but the road has
But-
its own standards.
Did they fix it, or do we need to
They
leave that
did,
in?
the permanent one shows the proper depths for
So we
our
don't need
streets.
14 anymore?
No, 15 was done.
14, you're recommending 14 be removed, Scott?
It was done.
Correct, it was completed.
What was completed?
Number 14, they added the detail.
Added
They
the detail,
updated the
okay.
detail to show
And
that.
what about 15 you're talking about?
15, they completed, they show the silt fence that I requested.
What,
They
11?
fixed the one with the town of Keene note in it. 17 we want.
Joanne, do you have a shared driveway agreement
I do.
on file
Yeah.
from the applicant?
Yes.
Okay.
And the easement, we have a draft of the easement as well.
Have they been reviewed yet or not, Joanne?
Yes, they have.
So they've been accepted?
Yeah.
So we can get rid of those.
And waivers are on page 15, have already been handled.
All right, I just wondered because looking at the plans and the discussion, it seemed like some of those, I mean, I know we have public
Yeah,
comment,
so-
but I just, when you said, Tim, that all of the conditions, I wanted to make sure.
Any more questions for the applicant before I open the public hearing?
I got one.
Mark?
Granted, I sit on this board as a fill-in. The question I have is, I understand there may be a legal battle going with that property.
No,
No, I understand. But what happens if that fails? Where do we stand?
I went to the town administrator's office and asked him that question, and he told me to move forward with the application, and
That doesn't have anything to do with this subdivision. That has to do with the building on the original lot. So that wouldn't have anything to do with the
after the last
subdivision.
meeting, I went to the town administrator and asked him that exact question.
I'll take it up with the town administrator.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, we have people in the audience who are going to want to speak, so I'll ask you to step aside for now. And I am going to open a public hearing. If anybody wants to be heard, please come forward. Your name for the record, sir?
Yes, sir. Hi, I'm Sean Collins. We live at 148 South Mass Street, Goffstown, New Hampshire, 03045.
Thank you for calling it South Mass Street.
That's- Believe it or not, I've been here, well, not in Goffstown, Manchester, and I actually thought it was a road
No, it's a street.
until you buy a house and they say it's a street. Okay,
Mastro's in Pinarco.
exactly.
Well, that's not true. It actually starts still while you're,
Yeah,
Okay.
we all live and learn. I'm really here, once again, to learn. I don't understand a lot of what you guys talk about, and so I tend to ask questions, and I apologize for that, so that I can learn what the heck's going on. We did go out back with Scott, and one of the other neighbors went out to look at it, what was going on back there. And my question, some of the questions I have is, number one, Mark brought it up, why is this even approved with litigation on the property? Two, we just found out.
Nothing's approved at this time, sir.
I understand, but you allowed an application to continue before saying, why don't we wait until the litigation's over? That would be the normal thing to do for anything. I just wanted to know how you came to that decision. Secondly, I personally want to challenge the lines, and we have had it surveyed twice now. And I did notice that granite thing is about a foot off where it should be. So I'm going to dispute that to make sure. I'm not in approval of this. This is, we thought he was going to live there forever with his family. We found out now it's up for sale already. It's been on sale for 2 weeks. The .96, that hasn't been approved yet. I don't know how you can even put that on sale for that. But it is listed on Zillow and everywhere else for $950,000 for .96. Don't understand how people can do that when, you know, things need to be settled first. So I'm requesting you, hopefully you'll table this again. Give me a chance to get surveyors out there to challenge what's been surveyed by them. That's all I'm asking for. I'd hope you'd at least give me the courtesy to do that. I'm in town forever. I am going to die in the house I'm in, just to let you know. I've been offered plenty of money for my house, and even Elon Musk doesn't have enough money to take that house from me. And I'm staying. So please take and consider of that, plus the fill that's out back that's now the brook's coming in. People are starting to feel it. That needs to be straightened out before you even think about a subdivision, because a subdivision, if you approve it, is going to get swamped by next year if that fill doesn't come out of there. And when we talk about fill is not just dirt, it's grass, it's leaves, I mean, it's just a pile of garbage. And that needs to be straightened out because that brook has been affected now, and unfortunately. So please, hopefully you hear my cry. Let's table this again and give me a chance to do what I need to do. And I thank the board, and once again, thank the chairman and all you people. This was real productive. Barbara, I'm going to say one thing about you. You're like the best person ever, because you'll ask questions and then I understand them. And then I'm
Well,
like,
thank you for saying so, that's very nice.
you weren't here last time, so I was lost. But tonight I felt obligated to at least let you know you do a wonderful job. And then up at the highway department and those guys, we're losing our road on Park Lane because of all the water. And I asked, if we could put some rock there. They did it, and they did a fantastic job. We're not going to lose Park Lane now, and I thank those guys as well. That's all I have to say. You guys have a great night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
My name is Dana Seelig, and we are the property owners of 134 South Mass Street. And my question for the board is, we're going to ensure that he sets the markers so that I will physically see the marker of the property. Is this correct? Because I'm the one who brought it to Scott's attention, the marker in the state marker laying in the water. Then we found the pin laying in the front, it's just laying there. So I just want to know, before that property gets sold, who owns what? Because based off of the print, his fence is on my property by 5.5 feet. And I don't feel comfortable even thinking that he has the ability to sell that property until the boundaries are established.
Tim, one of the conditions of all of the approvals for any sort of subdivision or lot line adjustment includes a requirement that the surveyor certifies that all of the bounds have been set, stamps it, and provides it to my office.
It's number 17 in our packet, and it states, written certification from the surveyor that all monumentation has been properly set in accordance with the approved plan shall be provided to the planning department, at which time you can see it at the planning department.
So because that is a condition of approval, the plans will not be signed until we have that proper paperwork.
So let's not break our rule and answer questions, Joanne.
Sorry.
Thank you.
So that was it for me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So you heard it. Anybody else want to come up and speak? I do not see anyone moving. Everybody all set? I'm going to close the public hearing. Board members.
So I can speak on the fill question.
Yeah, did you observe that, Scott?
So what it is they're placing yard debris so that you can see that a fence kind of surrounds it goes along the back of the property. It says it's a chain link fence. They have a gate in the back, and they basically put in yard waste back there, clippings and leaves. It's not currently in the water. The pile is somewhat close to the water, so I instructed Deo that he can't dump any closer than he is, and he should probably actually start
Pull it
dumping
back.
further away. That stream, we'll call it, back there is a problem, so we don't want to see any fill in there. There's issues with people upstream that have been flooded out. The school did some work in there 2 summers ago. I think they should probably go and tune it up a little. I noticed a lot of down branches that were starting to collect leaves, which kind of dams things up. So I should contact them and let them know that they need to go in and maintain that. But I don't believe Deo is currently filling the water, and I explained to him that he can't go any further with where he's filling. So that's just wanted to bring that to your attention.
So Scott, are you looking at your plan?
Yes.
I'm on page 1. They show where the water is relevant to the lot in question.
Yep.
But does it continue to the 24-inch RCP that's shown past lot 31,
Yes.
map 31, lot 5?
It's a very flat grade swale, so it's not, you hear the term self-cleaning for a ditch. This is not self-cleaning, so if trees and limbs fall in this, it will sit and it'll build up, and it's unfortunately needs to be maintained because of its proximity to the homes along South Mast, and honestly on Wallace there's an issue with,
So is
with
this
the home.
Park Lane that's not labeled here, that's got the sewer line in it? Is that Park Lane?
That is Park Lane, yes. So that 24-inch RCP is under Park Lane. And there's even, we've had issues beyond there. Even the swale that goes behind the houses on the other side of Park Lane, we've had calls for, but honestly, it's because of other issues that have nothing to do with this, so. I don't know
So
if I'm bringing it up.
your report is that this waterway is not occluded at this time? Not blocked?
Not by anything that the applicant is doing that I could observe. It's all from natural limbs falling off of trees or trees falling over.
And it has not, people have not gone out and cleaned it out?
No, and it's it's probably not in anyone at the school's mind to go in the woods to clean out a ditch. So,
Then somebody has to have it on their mind.
yeah, so.
Okay. All right, I'm going to invite the applicants back up. There's been a statement from an abutter that the line is challenging the property line. This is between the two of you as far as we're concerned. It's not something that planning department reviews or,
Well, if the applicant's up here. The applicant is showing us a plan that they're acknowledging a vinyl fence is not on their property. And we've had cases before where we've had people who have had things that have impinged on other people's property, and we've said, clean it up, or take it down, or move it.
but according to this plan that's showing us, it shows the vinyl fence is on the applicant's property.
It's not.
Oh, it's on this side.
So when we met on
I
site,
was talking about Mr.
Deo
Collins, 'cause I was reading
agreed
Mr.
with
Collins'
Dana
side.
to move it, so that, I think that might be why Dana didn't really push it too much, is Deo's already agreed to move it out. That's kind of why I didn't bring it up at all either.
So that's getting moved.
Can I just add, so
We know your name, but tell us anyway.
Dale Moano, the
Thank you,
owner
Dale.
of 140 South Mass Street. Glad to be here. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak. So I just want to make sure that we're talking to this in relation to the area where we're asking to get sublet. So on the right side of the property, which there's two abutters here from that side.
On the Park Street side.
Right. And
Yeah.
Mr. Dana's property that his wife owns is on the left side. And so that has nothing to do with the opposite side of the lot that we're asking to subdivide. But when we purchased the property, because of the inconsistency of not knowing where all the property lines were, after the surveyor came out this past winter, early February, March, there was a realization that it did come out a little bit on the side, and I have contracted my fencing company. They will be coming back to move that on the opposite side where Mr. Dana showed concern. So I just wanted to address that.
Yep.
To make sure that that's accounted for. And then the other thing that I also want to mention in relation to the fill, if you notice where my fencing is going across the day that Scott was over with the two neighbors, I actually didn't have a key to the gate to open the gate, so Dana allowed us to walk through his property. I do have to say, like, on my side of the fence, the grass or the leaves is very close to where the actual fence is. Really, it's away from the water.
Yeah.
And when we walked through my neighbor's yard to get to it, there were a lot more debris on his side that I think people have used as a platform, because it really is wet back there. So I wanted to make sure that if there was anything that was encroaching, knowing that Scott represents the town, to ensure that if there's anything that we needed to move, that we can move. But based on the conversation that we had, we're not going to put it, even though it's not in the water, we're not going to add any other thing in there to ensure that that area is clear. So those are the two things that the neighbors mentioned that I wanted to say. And then the other thing on the feedback on the neighbor side, pertaining to the survey, I mean, it took almost 2 months for this company to do the survey. They didn't even have a point of reference within the 4 or 10 houses around. They had to go all the way back to where the park is. So I hope that's not a condition in this as you all are evaluating the approval of this. So those, and then the last thing I do want to say is regarding to the litigation, because it's been brought up last time, and on the property, the lot and the property that's on my lot, there's no litigation against me than it is the process in which we are trying to rectify what occurred with the ADU. So that has nothing to do, and that's why the town manager didn't put any condition, because everything in the property has CO. There's a certificate of occupancy, and we've abided by all the rules. We've modified everything that needed to be done. So I do want to mention it because it's been mentioned twice in the last couple of meetings. So there's no litigation against me pertaining to anything that has to do with the property. All the property has CO, and that's why the town GM provided a green light on it. So thank you for allowing me to expand on my answers in relation to what the neighbors said.
Okay. Are there any outstanding issues, Joanne?
No, I think we have everything else in the conditions, and everything else has been discussed. And we will make those changes that you made to the list of the conditions on the final approval when it gets, recorded onto the plan. We'll make sure you get that in your notice of decision.
I mean, I don't have a real estate license, but my recollection when I have dealt with issues like that is property is not supposed to be listed before it's the legal lot, but it happens all the time from what I understand.
You can list it, but you can't sell it. You
Is that
can't
what the
take a
rule is now?
Purchase and sales agreement.
You got a purchase and sale on a piece of property that's not approved, it's subject to the approval.
Okay.
That's what most people do nowadays, because they have to come in and get board approval, so they don't want to buy, have someone else.
Thank you.
The Conservation Committee, the Conservation Commission went out and walked it.
I don't believe so. No, they
No,
just
no,
There's no
reviewed the
wetland.
plans.
Huh? They just looked at the
reviewed
plans, they didn't go out, because this isn't really a wetland, it's just muck.
Yeah.
Well, it's still delineated as wetlands, but.
Is it?
Yeah, so we actually had it flagged, so we located flags along there. Lou Curley can certify that was on our plans, so we do have it located. And part of the placement of our house holds that setback to those.
Yeah, they'd show in the 100-foot
Yeah.
Okay.
SWC setback.
Yeah,
So-
okay.
But we've got there's no
It's on the first
impacts
page.
on the backside of the
The
plan.
lot, so it
Yeah.
doesn't, okay.
Joanne, 9 and 17 are the
I
same
appear to have
conditions.
photos of the
You
west
just
side of the
duplicated
sheet.
them so we can eliminate
Second
17.
sheet, too.
Okay.
Where do we stand on the waiver? I'm sorry, remind me.
And we passed the waiver for the
That's all right.
driveway.
That was done.
22 was the allowable, 24 is what it was.
That was done at the meeting.
And it was decided that it was okay to leave it. It's actually safer for 2 cars to pass there than it is to shrink it and make it more narrow. So we decided it wasn't worth
All right.
requiring that they shrink the driveways.
So when we vote, we're voting on just subdividing this, right?
Subdividing the lot, that's what the application is to subdivide the lot. In regards to the request from one of our abutters to hold up the application until the survey work is completed, I don't think we have the authority to hold up an application based on that. I hear your request, but a licensed surveyor has presented us with a plan, and we don't call people's credentials into question at this meeting. We accept information as presented, and if an abutter has issues with it, then it becomes up to the abutter to deal with it, sir. Anything else from our board members?
The subdivision meets the
Requirements.
requirements.
Yeah, it meets, the subdivision itself meets all the requirements of the zoning.
Of the village, right?
Well, if you look at page
This is
18 of your
R2.
report, there's findings of fact that need to accompany any motion, and the findings of fact have been presented for us to enter into the record, so whoever makes the motion has to use the findings of fact on page 18, if a motion is made.
So Joanne and board members, it's my understanding that the issues with this site have been resolved in regards to our zoning ordinance and the powers we have. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
It meets the zoning
All right.
planning
So
regulations besides the one that you
I will
made.
make the motion even though there are people all over town who don't want to see this because that house was loved for many, many years. It meets the application before us for the subdivision at 140 South Math Street, map 31, lot 7, has met all the requirements under the development regs and zoning ordinance. And as the subdivision complies, I recommend approval incorporating the town administrator's findings of facts, excluding 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19,
Add 17, Barbara, because 17 and 9 are the same.
17,
What else are you removing?
18, 19.
Well, even though they've supplied the shared agreement, I think it should be a condition of approval and listed on the conditions of approval. Because that becomes part of the
all right,
record.
okay, yeah, then
I mean,
the
this,
fact it exists.
this type of
then-
subdivision requires
Well,
a shared
except an
agreement.
easement is recorded, then.
And the easement, the same with the easement, number 19 should, I think should stay in.
And then the rest are staying,
All the rest.
20 through 27.
And I just have sort of pause. The applicant has represented that the vinyl fence encroaching on the abutting lot is going to be moved,
Map 30, lot 71.
and I would like to add that as a condition.
Can I just ask one question?
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with the west side
You're
of the
creating a
property.
new lot, it doesn't, you represented that you're going to do it,
It is going to be moved, 100%, but I just think that that's,
Well, it shows something, you showed us your lot lines, it shows that your fence is not on your property. We're requiring you to put your fence on your
it's
property as part
essentially a
of
new lot. You are creating a new lot. We've done it with other applicants where they've done subdivisions and
we'll
something.
be able to move it, no problem.
Yeah, I'm not, I'm not intending to hold up anything here. It's just that I want something on the record that it's going to be done. It is unfortunate a lot of times that these things get left and they're not followed up on. So that's my motion.
Okay, so we're just going to add that at the end
Right.
as number 28, and she can renumber them later.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded by Barbara and Phil to approve with conditions and findings of fact read into the record. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
No,
2 noes.
Yes.
And does anyone abstain? Okay, so motion passes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you want to discuss anything, folks, we'd appreciate it if you could take it outside the double doors. We have other business to conclude, and we can hear you very plainly inside the room here. We're going to go back to our packet, State of New Hampshire Housing Appeals Board document. I will let Joanne give everybody the rundown on this. It's public record, so it's nothing that is to be handled in confidence. So Joanne, could you please give everyone a brief rundown on what's happening with this document?
So abutters to this Acorn Drive project have appealed the board's decision to the Housing Appeals Board, but they raised certain concerns that they would like the board to look into. So they basically...
Who's they?
The people who are
The
opposing.
email address is listed on the front who filed the application.
So not the Housing Appeals Board?
No, no.
The applicant.
It was just filed with the Housing Appeals
Okay.
Board. Not the applicant, but the appellant. So the way I read this was that they had made a list, let me just go to the end here. They had 7 items in their conclusion, and it states that each of these concerns reflects gaps in responsible planning, environmental protection, and public safety measures. The Acorn Drive Extension subdivision cannot move forward in its current form without addressing the following. So they're urging the New Hampshire Housing Appeals Board to require these studies, evaluations, etc., before the project can go forward. So they're not appealing the subdivision as a
Approved, right.
whole.
Okay.
They're asking that,
I think they're appealing our procedure.
yes.
Yeah, it's
So
essentially a...
they're asking that, number 1, a fire protection analysis, including cistern installation or enforceable safety measures. So we did get feedback from the fire department stating that they would accept sprinklers. Now, the state law says that the planning board cannot mandate sprinklers. However, if the applicant offers to do sprinklers, the fire department can accept that, and the planning board can make that a condition.
In lieu of requiring
In lieu
a
of
cistern.
cisterns. So that's what happened in this case. So she's asking for an analysis, and she wants cisterns. The second one is a comprehensive school impact study evaluating enrollment capacity and financial burden. We heard from the school saying, I believe we heard from the school on this one, saying that they may run into some issues, and they did include Mark Frugière's report that was done a few years ago. But that's all that we received from the school district. Number 3, expanded traffic study addressing real traffic volumes and intersection safety. There was a traffic study.
There are traffic studies like that thick.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what that's about.
If you read it, the claim is that they only counted one day, and they counted
Oh,
like 4
that's right,
days or
yeah.
something.
Right, remember
So-
there was
For
an issue
4
of
hours.
construction,
Yeah.
it was for
Yeah.
short term,
Yeah,
it's in the
they-
body of the
I-
applicant.
That's right.
It was a well-done traffic study.
Okay.
Number 4, third-party comprehensive on-site analysis of well impact via hydrology study. That was a long discussion that the board had. And there was no real impact or clear answer from any of the engineering people of how to resolve something like that. Number 4, third-party comprehensive, I'm sorry, that's the same thing. No,
5.
Number 5, formal conservation committee review allowing appropriate environmental oversight. Not sure.
So when if you read the full
The body
gist
of
of
it,
that,
yeah.
they mention the like
Oh, at the
switcheroo
end,
thing where
yes, yeah.
where they're like, oh, we're removing this
Right.
this parcel, when really they just moved it. They didn't state that to Concom, but
Correct, yes.
they presented it to this board. So that's what I think number 5 is getting
Okay.
at.
Because they did review it, it was just that at the end, they
Right.
made that
There is another
switch.
statement in there that said that about the April visit where
Yeah.
well, that's what I think.
I
this
think
is,
that's number.
5.
I think number 7 or no 6 goes into that piece.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
Number 6 is third-party wetlands review ensuring accurate delineation and conservation compliance.
And
Is
that
that
has to
what
do-
you're talking about?
That's
No, no, no.
different.
No, on the one about the formal conservation committee review is, that she states something about back
Because of
in
the bait
April,
and switch.
they left,
Oh, yeah.
people left, and then they did the bait and switch, but they were, I think they were talking about how half of the applicant's person just left and left.
Yeah, which did seem odd.
Yeah.
The
And that's
wetlands
what,
scientist
that's what
left.
she said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on the hydrology one, I think what the lady, I read this, and I think what she's saying is she wants us to do it because they did it, and like one of them said, hydrologic studies don't mean nothing. Their hydrologist said, oh, it could be, misled or something
Yeah.
like that.
The problem is if the town hires someone, even on their dime, I think you're gonna get the same vague answer.
I think part of it
Yeah.
is because that's that data that they have. They're going by that data.
Yeah.
They question the data because it's Water Well Review Board data that was put in place the day the well was drilled.
Right.
The well could have been drilled in 1970, and that's the data that's on file. No one has ever gone back out and retested the
No,
wells.
and they never do, and that's
Nobody
the problem.
does.
It's-
But that's the only available source for
Yeah.
for water well data.
Right, that was my point. That's all
And I
data.
think they fell to the New Hampshire DES requirement that the minimum allowable amount of water for a well to be a well for a residence is a half a gallon a minute.
Yeah.
I believe they
based
stated that
Based
in-
on water column.
And that's a
everything.
DES
Yeah.
regulation.
Right.
So if a well yields a half a gallon a minute, it's deemed a usable well under DES standards.
So I looked at that study. I'm not a hydrologist, I don't pretend to be. But what I did was, I read their data, and I read, they cite specific DES things. So I go to DES and I look at it, I review the way DES explains it, and it made sense to me the way they presented it. There's like the report says, there's no guarantee that this isn't gonna cause a well to go dry somewhere, but that's the case with any well you drill.
Right.
I mean, it's unfortunate.
The issue is when there's no data, our regs
Yeah.
allow the putting 40,
Right.
42 wells, like, right in a row on, we all know granite, and
And
it's gonna have impact. I'll be shocked if they get decent water pressure in all those houses, but there's nothing you can do
yeah,
about it.
I mean,
You
I
get
I
water
live not
pressure
too
by
far
your
from
system,
there.
but
They're probably gonna have a
yield
ton of
is what
iron
they
in
may
their
not
water
get.
too. There's gonna be iron, there's gonna be arsenic,
Well,
there's
that's,
gonna be radon.
everybody has that, most people have that, it's got to do with the
It's all
yield.
naturally occurring, what's your problem?
It's what it is. All
And
right,
the last one is heritage and endangered species assessment preventing harm to to vulnerable wildlife.
So that's a requirement
So-
of DES
Would-
permitting
I say, wouldn't
anyway,
the
so-
Conservation
And they
Commission have
talked about
recommended
the
that?
critter crossing and
Yeah,
the turtles.
so they had already began their AOT permit. They'll need a wetland crossing permit, and the design engineer for the project isn't Doug, it's another guy at the company who was in contact with me, who had specific requests from the Fish and Game, New Hampshire Fish and Game. So they wanted catch basins with smaller grates in them so turtles don't fall into them, because what happens, the catch basins have sumps. If a turtle falls in, it can't get out the pipe. The other thing they wanted to do, which this is hilarious to me, they wanted catch basins to not have sumps, but New Hampshire DES requires sumps because that's where your sediment collects instead of going out the pipe into a stream. So you got one state entity telling you one thing and the other telling you the other thing.
Government, thank you.
Fishing game.
And there were some other things about the crossing being wildlife friendly. So they will do that piece, but it's in the permitting process. It's not something that this board typically dictates.
Right.
So let's get off topic. Joanne, are you required as a planning department to file information that's requested, or are you just collecting it for yourself and the Housing Appeals Board is not going to see the information you collected?
So we have a request from our attorney, so we've been served with papers as a town, and we have a request from our attorney to submit the entire file, which has already been done.
Which is standard procedure in any sort of appeal from a planning board,
And then-
approval, whether to the Housing Appeals Board or
Yeah.
to the Superior Court.
And then from there, it goes back and forth, kind of trying to negotiate things, but I don't know where this stands on the docket of the Housing Appeals Board. I don't know how busy they are.
Doesn't
right
matter, I
now.
just wanted to know what your obligation was for
So
response.
we have to provide them with everything that's in our file.
Do you have to answer the questions as set forth in the appeal?
No, our attorney takes care of
He
that.
takes care of that. You supply the information, he answers the question.
Yeah.
Good.
And then if it goes to trial, I've had to go before where you're sort of there as the keeper of the records, and they ask you, is this from the such and such meeting, and you just have to say yes. But that doesn't happen that
Will
often,
the
and I doubt it
applicant
would.
have to go to this?
Hmm?
Does the applicant have to go to this?
Probably not, because they're appealing our decision, not the applicant's
Okay.
approval.
I don't know, and I've never gone to a housing appeals board, so I think theirs is a little shorter and not as involved.
More expensive though,
More
according to the
expensive?
state report, the state audit. Costs more to do a
Oh,
housing
wow.
appeals board than it
So-
does for the judge to look at it back in the old days.
So if the governor signs the budget bill, which is part of,
Let's not go there. Let's leave that
Well,
out.
is it specific to this?
well, just the housing appeals
No,
board
I-
in general,
Yeah.
it will
Right.
eliminate, I believe it's 2 positions, there'll only be 1 person left, and they'll be using staff from the tax appeals board, so they'll be
Right,
sharing
it'll be
staff.
more like a single judge
Yeah,
proceeding.
right.
instead of
For
three.
one
Right.
person making a decision. Okay. Anybody else, any more questions on this business of the appeals board? Seeing that, any other items for tonight's agenda, Joanne, that are outstanding before Phil makes his motion?
No, we have no items for our next meeting.
So let's see that. So there's nothing on the agenda for the next meeting?
So maybe we should do our development regs.
Is it too late to cancel?
Well, the only thing I was going to say was I would love to do the development regs, but because I'm going on vacation right after that,
Your brain will not be.
Barbara, is this the open space rewrite?
No, this is we still haven't gotten our development regs
I have
done.
a copy here if anyone needs one that hasn't received one.
So,
Joanne's looking to get out. of
Joanne,
this.
is it,
I
has
can
the
tell,
deadline
because
come and
this
gone
is-
for submissions for the next meeting?
Yes, it would have been last Friday, right?
Yes, it was last Friday.
So if we are not going to do the development regulations, is that the consensus of this board?
Apparently.
Well, it's up to you guys, but I would prefer
I can be here, but I
Be free.
kind of think.
Don't spoil it.
I kind of think the planning director should be here if we're gonna talk about the
At least in-
development regulations.
Right.
I'm not going to Australia yet.
All right, so if there's no
Well,
objection,
and if I could just say one other thing. The next meeting after that, unless we get something in shortly, we only have one item, and it's a time extension, so we could start working on that.
That'd be a
that
good
night.
idea.
Well,
All
I
right,
mean,
We-
there's still a while before somebody
Yeah,
can submit
yeah.
on that too.
We don't know yet.
We haven't had anything really pop up in
No.
TRC lately though, so.
This is like building season, so usually when building season is going on, we get slow. And then once that's
Right.
over, then we pick back up
so
again.
what's the date for this meeting in question, Joanne?
June
July.
26th.
So June 26th, we're going to cancel?
Well,
Is that
I'm
what I'm
working
hearing?
on that. So if there's, no one has an objection, the chair will cancel the meeting for June 26th at this time, since the deadline is already passed for people to submit, so no one can submit, and we would exclude them, and there's nothing on the agenda presently. So that's it. The chair doesn't need a motion.
So everybody that night, you're gonna sit at home and you're gonna read your copy of the development plan.
Sounds accurate.
Yeah.
Okay, so the June 26th meeting is officially canceled. Everybody hear that at home that's watching? All right, if there's no other business, it's time for Phil.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Who was that, Richard?
Richard.
All right, motion to adjourn by Phil, okay, seconded by Richard. Anybody want to discuss that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes.
Interested?
Thank you for coming tonight. GTV, we are adjourned.